This is still the day that the Lord has made. Let us still rejoice and be glad in it. So this is part two. Part two. Part one should be loaded just before this one. But render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Render to God what is God's. Have you heard that before? That's Jesus. And he said that in his last week of ministry. He's in the temple when he says that. Now, just to give you a sense, he was marching close. He's about halfway through the week, going to be getting crucified, and then it's going to end with the resurrection. But prior to this, he'd come in, marched in, received like a king, coming in peace, riding on a donkey. He went to the temple. There were money changers in the temple who were exchanging money, and he started turning those over and said, you made my father's house a den of thieves. It's supposed to be a house of prayer for all nations. Zeal for his father's house consumed him, is what his people remembered about him. And so that action, though, it triggered a lot of response from the authorities who ran the temple. So just quickly understand some of the authorities in place in Jerusalem. So there's Pilate. A lot of us know who Pilate was. He's the Roman governor. That's probably the lead political authority in the city. He represented Rome. Also, Herod was involved. King Herod, he was a vassal king. He was responsible for making sure that Rome got their taxes and that sort of stuff. He had to keep Rome happy. He didn't want to cause trouble with Rome, but he was the king. He was the king, and he had people, and they were in Jerusalem for that week. Another political authority would be the Sadducees. They ran the temple. They were very upset when Jesus overturned the tables. That was sort of their source of money. They were the leading political authority among the Jews. So sometimes we think about, priests. They're not political. They're religious. There is no separation of religion from the state in first century Palestine by any means, and the priests were the highest political authority. There was another political authority called now known as the Pharisees. The priests ran the temple. The Pharisees ran the synagogues, which were places of worship and places of gathering throughout Judea and to Galilee, wherever Jews were, they could have a synagogue. And so the Pharisees led in that respect, and both Pharisees and Sadducees served on this board called the Sanhedrin, this body called the Sanhedrin, and that was a place where they made political and religious decisions. Now the Pharisees, though, were true believers. There's a guy named Seneca, and he said in the Roman Empire, he's Roman historian, political figure, and his comment was that religion to the common people was true, to the philosophers was false, and to the politicians was useful. So the Pharisees represented the common people. For them, religion was very true. Faithfulness to God and to God's law is what mattered the most to the Pharisees. Now, Herod's people, or known as the Herodians, for them, what mattered the most was loyalty and fidelity to Herod, to a political authority. So Herod's people, for them, religion was useful. For the Pharisees, religion was true. And they partner up because neither one of those groups likes Jesus. Actually, Pilate probably doesn't care about Jesus at this point. Herod doesn't like Jesus. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they really don't like Jesus. And so that sets the stage. Now, after Jesus turned over those tables, group after group was coming to him to try to trap him, try to get him so he would lose favor with the people. And Jesus won all those battles. It was like, he turns over the tables. That's 1-0. By what authority do you do this? Jesus wins that one, 2-0. And there's basically 3, 4, 5-0. By this conflict, it's like 5-0 in favor of Jesus. It's going to go to about 8. And then they're going to quit trying to trap Jesus. But they're still in the middle trying to trap Jesus. They think they have him here. In 22:15, this is what happens. The Pharisees, for them, religion and God's law is what matters the most. They went out and laid plans to trap Jesus in his words. They sent their disciples, so a group of Pharisees, true believers, they sent a group of their disciples to him along with the Herodians, the political believers, if you will, the people for whom fidelity to Herod is what mattered the most. So you have a group of people coming to see Jesus, these two groups represented that were usually just at odds with one another, but they are together trying to trap Jesus. And this is what they say. Teacher, they said, we know you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and you are not swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. That is flattery. There's a proverb, Old Testament says, when somebody is flattering you, they are laying a net to trap you. Flattery. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? They thought they had him. I mean, here's a dilemma, right? Okay, so catch this. If Jesus says it's okay to pay taxes to Caesar, then he's going to lose his credibility with the people because they all thought, the Romans, they should not be here. They should not be here, and we should not be having to give them taxes. Now, if he said, oh, no, don't give the Romans anything, then the Herodians are ready because they're responsible for making sure Rome got their money so there wouldn't be any trouble, so they could stay in power that way. And so Jesus refuses to, pay taxes. Then they can arrest him as a revolutionary. We've got him. He's either going to lose the support of the people or he's going to be arrested. Either way, Jesus is going to be taken care of by this little trap. And Jesus, he knows what they're up to. Jesus, knowing their evil intent, their wicked intent, they're out to steal or to kill or to destroy Jesus. That was their intent. He said, you hypocrites. That word hypocrite, usually we think about it as like, oh, that means that you act like you believe one thing, but you actually believe something else. It actually comes from the Greek world of plays, and a hypocrite is an actor, and they would wear masks, and the mask they put on would kind of be the character they were portraying while they were role playing. So Jesus calls them out on it. You're totally pretending. You hypocrites. Why are you trying to trap me? He knew what they were saying. Show me a coin used for paying the tax. They brought him a denarius, and he asked, whose image is this and whose inscription? Now, this is interesting, all right? They're going to give him a coin. And their answer is Caesar. Caesar is on the coin. Now, the Caesar that would have been on those coins would have been Tiberius. And coins were a way that leaders in the ancient world, I mean, we don't use coins that much. We use paper bills or plastic, right? But it used to be pretty much all the money was in coin. Almost all of it was in coin, and there was stamped with an image of the ruler. And wherever that coin was considered good and valid, that would be kind of the extent of the ruler's, influence, his realm. Wherever coins with Tiberius's face on them were used, that's where Tiberius was in charge. You wanted to conduct business, that'd be okay with Tiberius. How do you know? Well, because he's on the coin. Now, if you got to a place where nobody recognized the coins, that actually showed that you were in a place that you'd gone beyond the realm and the rule of that leader. So Jesus says, whose image is on these coins? And they say Caesar. And he says something interesting. So, give back to Caesar. Render is a good translation. I like render. Apodidomai. Give back. Give back to Caesar what was Caesar's. It was his to begin with. He has a right to it. Give back to Caesar what's Caesar's. And give back to God what is God's. Now, here's a question. Where does God have his image stamped? That's an interesting question. You see, Caesar had coins. He might have had frescoes or sculptures or something like that too, where his image was portrayed. God's image is on people. He made us in his image. We are intended to reflect where God's rule and reign is. We're intended to demonstrate to the world where God's kingdom is. Jesus says, image bearer, give to Caesar what's Caesar's, fine. But give to God what's God. Give to God your very self. Where God's image is, that's where God's realm and reign are in place. Is that what it looks like where you are? And see, there's a question, right? There's a question to hang on to. Are you giving back to God what's God's? Are you recognizing that what is Caesar's? That's actually God's too. Yeah, that can be helpful this particular season. Where does your loyalty lie? In the one who created you in his image? Or in the one who issues coins and dollar bills? Something to think about. Something to think about. When they heard this, they were amazed. And they left him. And they went away. Part 3 is next.